Hello, good people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of Ask a Human, Not an AI with Chetan Naran. Today's question is from Deepak, and it is a fascinating one. It is quite at the heart of spirituality, and I love it when people talk to me about spirituality. So here goes. He asks me, I was recently reading this book, The Untethered Soul. There was an interesting section that gives a glimpse of how we get entangled in Maya. Interesting. He gives an example of a movie which engages not only your five senses but also synchronizes your thoughts and emotions with what's happening on the screen. In such an experience, there would be no object of consciousness that is not synchronized with the experience, and hence you would get completely lost because the movie gets to have complete control of even your thoughts. I think I can relate with this example because this is how we get entangled in our lives too. Since birth, there are so many sensory inputs and thoughts and emotions around that, and this momentum goes on. So, my first question is first, what do you think about it? Second, have you found any way or practice to slow down this momentum? Slow down this momentum. I love this question. I absolutely love this question. Now, see, firstly, I do not know this author. I have not read the book. So I do not know what his exact intentions were behind saying this. But you seem to be on the right path. You seem to be understanding correctly that this looks like a very good example of how we get entangled in Maya. We are born, and there are all these sensory inputs right from the time of our birth, and they get to have complete control of us, and therefore it seems that we are entangled in this life. We do get entangled in our small little lives. But what I want you to consider even more than this, you've asked me what I think about this. My honest thought about this is that the idea of there being a separate me who is now entangled in this Maya is itself creating another duality that now you'll have to unlearn. Here is what I mean. See, you say that this is how we get entangled in the movie, we get entangled in the Maya. You're right with the example, but consider this deeply for a second. You're almost suggesting as if you were present, you were alive somewhere outside of this movie and were put into this movie. It's almost like, I think it was the second episode of my podcast, second episode of season one, where I was talking about this idea of we being born into this world, we coming into this world. That is not true. We don't come into this world, we come out of this world. That is what your true relation is with this world, with this movie, with this Maya. And why am I stressing on this? It's because, see, stretch your own example. You say that we get entangled in this Maya, and therefore we need to slow down this momentum and detach yourself from this Maya. Now, when you detach yourself from whatever is happening around you, it may so happen, and it does happen with a lot of people, that they start to consider that whatever is happening here on this plane is not real life. Real life is happening somewhere else on some other lok, on some other absolutely different level, or they start to live this life from this detached viewpoint. And that is where I think we cut ourselves short, because if you think about it, this life is all there is. This life is not really your enemy. I mean, even the action of detaching yourself from the movie is happening within the movie. The movie is all there is. The Consider one more example of this being a tree, and you and everyone else around you being another branch on this tree of life. Now, this tree is not your enemy. It is important to understand that if we do not consider all of this, what happens is that we consider the part of the tree or the part of the movie that gets shown to us to be the entire movie, to be the entire tree. And therefore, detaching yourself from that perspective is absolutely necessary. It is step one to actually expanding your perspective and becoming spiritual, even. But then the attachment to that detachment also needs to be unlearned. And that is what I want you to focus on. Because this Maya, this tree is not the enemy. The tree is all there is. And I want you to be more congruent with life. I want you to be more congruent with this tree of life. And now to the second part of your question, where you have asked me whether I have found some practices to slow down this momentum. This is also why I absolutely love your question, Deepak, because you've asked me how to slow down the momentum, not how to kill this momentum, overcome this Maya, etc., etc. All of which are buzzwords that need to use to get people to watch this. But yes, the entire idea is to slow down this momentum, because like you said, right from birth there are so many of these inputs going into our minds, and they have completely occupied our consciousness. And therefore the first and foremost thing is to slow down this momentum. I think something that has really helped me was definitely actively meditating. In the beginning of my journey, I would dedicate time and sit actively meditating on various spiritual topics, actively cultivating mindfulness, actively meditating on everything that I had read from all of these books and consumed from all of these videos. Because at the end of the day, all of these books, all of these videos, including my videos, they are pointing to the same truths about life, but the words being used by the authors, by the creators, would always mask what is actually true, because words tend to go through this perspective, uh, these filters that we have applied in our own heads. And therefore actively meditating on the different content that you consumed is definitely going to help. One more thing that comes to my mind is discussing, having someone with whom you can share and talk to about all of these things. I think, again, in the initial years of my journey, I had at least one friend whose name comes to my mind right now, with whom I had hours of conversations talking about anything and everything, about the books we were reading, about the videos we were watching, etc., in person, over the phone. And man, did that help. It really helps to gather fresh perspectives from people who you admire and from people who are resonating at the same frequency with you. And it's hard to get people who resonate at the same frequency, because again, we are so busy in our lives that hardly any of us takes the time to step back and evaluate that the things we are considering so damn serious, so damn important in our lives, are even serious or important or not. And yes, so therefore I would say discussing with your friends, discussing with people who are resonating at the same frequency definitely helps. The third thing that comes to my mind would be writing. Again, because there are so many things going on in our minds, so many inputs going into our minds, and therefore we have so many different, varied kinds of thoughts, even about topics such as spirituality, mindfulness, Maya, and all the rest of it, that it can go berserk at times. And therefore, a practice such as writing almost forces you to organize your thoughts. And I personally love writing, and I know that writing my thoughts down has really helped me a lot in cultivating a voice where I can share these things now with people. Which brings me to the fourth thing that I would say here: cultivating patience. Cultivating patience. I know it's easier said than done, but being patient with your progress, being patient with your own spiritual journey is extremely important, because, like everything else, it comes in the form of sine waves. And especially in your lower phases, you have to be patient. You have to stay with your cycle. You have to stay patient and understand that this is going to come up again in some time. I think that's about it. One more thing I'll say is that I really hope that you quite soon enough just realize that enough is enough. I have read enough, I have watched enough videos, I've listened to enough podcasts, and I now know that I can act from this highest self, because that is what I would expect you to do at some point. Remember, enough is a decision, not an amount. Until next time, peace out.